Voila, I guess I'll get this started. This is Spit here, and I'm going to be explaining my HARPG ranch. For those of you who do not know what HARPG is, it means Horse Art Role-Playing Game, and this is my particular stable ranch. I call it stables, but there's dogs, so it's a ranch. This is going to explain the basics of the storyline. I plan to do a few videos like this because my stable storyline is extremely long, and yeah, it's hard to get people up to date on that because it's a journey. So, first thing everyone needs to know are who the key players are. The owner of SFR, which is my ranch, is named Cecilia Williams, otherwise known as Cece. She is a large child. She's, I guess, in her 30s. She is tiny. She has a lion mane for hair. Everyone at SFR has hair. Like, why am I even going into this? But she just likes to pet all the ponies, and is generally just a large nerd. But to explain, if I had to explain a thing about Cece, she's just ridiculously effing rich at the beginning of this because she can be. Like, that's all you're getting right now. But then you got her husband. His name is Luke. He short for Lucas. He tends how to describe Luke? You just need to know that he deals with Cece. He just kind of is just like, okay, you don't touch, don't Cece, get off the horse, Cece, please. But is generally very accepting and great. Then there's Riley. He's the tall, annoyed-looking one with a stupidly long braid. He's the head staff member, like barn manager, in charge of like everything else. He is Luke's best friend and generally in charge of making sure Cece doesn't get herself killed. Then there's Piper, the redhead. She's also tall, but not nearly as tall as Riley. And she's mellow. She's just a normal rider, but she's one of the most trusted of the staff members because she's been here a while. Yep. Then there's India. She is an extremely cheerful, happy person. She's also just a rider, but she tends to do not show jumping, super adventurous stuff like, oh, I don't know, flying horses. She hates stirrups, and Cece has just started to get her saddles that don't have them because she just cuts them off, and it's like, India, please, we have to pay for those. Then there's Rain. She is in charge of the tiny little baby horses and show jumping and modern dragon hunting. She's great and has the most fantabulous of hair. It's like multiple colors, and she has feathers and a weird bun thing that I don't think can actually exist. But Rain is generally extremely chill, and I believe I described her as the free spirit one. She's also like the youngest out of everybody. She's like 20 at the beginning of this. Well, not the beginning, when she shows up. So, to describe the very, 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 very basics of SFR, which I considered the beginning of my ranch account, Spitfire Ranch, would be Cece finished college and moved. She's in the US. Moved out east, back east from California, where she grew up, to do dog training. And she did training for some ranch or farm or whatever, because it was bought out by some larger it was a family-owned business that was bought out by a larger company who was cheap and did not want to buy trained dogs. So Cece was brought in to train them. But they were she loved training them, but sometimes it could be a little bit of they were extremely energetic, and so when she had break time, she was like, ah, yee, and went off and would just wander off into the woods and chill. So one day, she was out there, and this random dog, just kind of random, she was like, oh, okay, that's a thing. And then out of the woods stepped Luke, who, that was not actually his dog, that was the dog that lived at the farm next door to Luke's. So that's when they met, and they became friends. Cece also made friends with someone else via the internet who actually lived only like an hour or so away, and that person was named Allie. Allie taught Cece how to ride horses, and so Allie, someone came in and I had to pause for a second. So to continue what I was saying about Allie, Allie was a friend who owned her own ranch and lived about 40-something minutes away, so Cece occasionally would go visit her and started to learn how to ride. Over about a year, Cece learns to ride better and then basically kind of just levels out at advanced beginner / intermediate. And remember when I said she was really stupidly rich? Yeah, she just buys a horse, a green horse, and she stables it at Allie's farms along with all these other horses she buys. And let's see what horses were. Oh gosh, this was such a long time ago. Her first horse is a gray on bay thoroughbred named Christmas, and I believe she was an ex-race horse. Then the other 3 horses she gets are stallions. There's B, who's a white barb horse, Baxter, who is a Palomino Welsh Cob Section D, and DS, which was short for Desert Storm, and he's a Palomino Quarter Horse. And they all just kind of stay at Allie's until she's like, maybe you should get your own place with all these horses. And Cece's like, yeah, I guess I should get my own place. And she winds up leasing a small farm and moving her horses there. And this is about the time that Luke and her started to date around this point. And he leaves his job at the ranch near her place, where she used to work, due to disagreements with how the horses were treated there. And he comes to help her train the horses full time, because Cece does not have the experience to train horses. This is where all the horses start appearing from. The first farm is named Spitfire Farms, and the very first thing that happens there, they find a horse named Shard, but that's an entire other story. So just know that they got a giant draft horse thing that has issues, but it's really nice. She's a mare. And staff is brought on because Cece starts getting a lot of horses. Riley is brought on as a favor from Luke. Riley had been an experienced trainer across Europe, and then he was like, I'm retiring, I'm out. And so he just now works as a barn manager. Then there is Rain, who's like, I want to say 17 at this point. 17, 18. She's young and she only works part-time. Piper comes in temporarily to train Christmas before leaving. Piper's from Texas. Then there's other staff people who were there full-time, but I never gave them names, and I'm not sure who they are, but just know there's other people too. So after years of this going on, I want to say like 5, but we don't actually really count time in this storyline because that's dumb. So just know time passes. So Cece slowly stops training dogs full-time and only trains part-time, whereas Luke trains full-time. They don't really breed that many horses or have specific breeds. They have an amalgamation of everything, but specialize in horses that have issues. But then they eventually get into the breed known as Drayman Drafts. But that is that's mostly going to be in the next video, because they adopt a colt named Stormy and get a bunch of other ones who I'll explain later. And this kind of era ends with Cece moves the entire place to California. This is where SFR, Spitfire Ranch, starts, because she names the second place Ranch, whereas the first one is Farms. So why did Cece move? Because somebody died and left her a ton of land, so she was like, you're gonna build a giant place. So they move and drag most of their horses out there. Actually, I think it's all the horses, and they leave the place with one of the trusted staffers who worked there with them, that he can use not as his personal property, but like he can move into the house that there's there. And Riley moves out there. Rain moves out there. And this is when Piper comes on full-time, along with Rain, but Piper had Rain stayed around and only worked part-time, but Piper literally just came for a couple months. And this is when Indy is hired, and everyone just kind of moves out there. It also introduced some new staff members, such as Evan, who is the office manager, Dane, who is one of the dog handlers, because SFR has dogs, Taryn, who's the veterinarian, Dean is her husband, he's the janitor, their daughter is Morgan, who's another animal handler, there is Ronnie, who works as the handyman, and Andrew, who is another dog trainer. Andrew, he was specifically for a pack of huskies that Cece got right before she moved to Southern California, where there is no snow. So he tends to just hang out with the puppies for a while. But this is also Cece buys, don't tell anybody, a smaller property known as Dark Moon Ranch, DM, where India is from, and she buys out that ranch, who belongs to her friend Jasmine, and adds it kind of to SFR's company, because let me tell you this, it winds up being intense. And this next video is when Cece started to breed Nords and everything goes terribly, terribly wrong.